Hey everyone, this is NF90, and I've got several things going on with this video. First of all, I want to go ahead and say that this is going to be the first video in a series of discussion videos that I'd like to call NF90 Talks It Out. And it's going to be something a little bit different. It's going to be talking about, certain games, games for console, a certain game series or anime series or manga series or anything like that I'm pretty much going to be talking about for this for these series of videos. And I do hope that everybody looks forward to these videos. This is something completely different that I just thought about doing and so forth. But before we get into that, I do want to go ahead and make a few little updates. First and foremost, the reason why I haven't been making many videos or since the Atelier Meru video, which I want to say on a side note, thank you everyone for your comments and your feedback on that video. I greatly appreciate it. I know it was a whole lot better than the Neptunia Mark II video that I did of the unboxing of it. But, of course, according to some comments, I still need to do a little bit more work on the videos. I am planning on getting a new camera here soon, so hopefully I'll be able to get a new camera here in the fall, and I'll be able to make videos on it, and hopefully it'll be better picture quality than the typical digital camera that I use for my videos. But aside from that, I do want to say thank you all for watching the Atelier Meru grand finale unboxing. I know it's another one of the unboxing videos, and I've done a lot of those recently. And I do thank you all for your feedback and tell me that it was a whole lot better than the Neptunia Mark II video. And I will admit, I did rush the Neptunia video out way too soon, and I should have worked on it a little bit more, and should not have just tried to focus on getting there, putting it on YouTube first before anybody else, and I felt really bad about that. But aside from that, back into what I was saying here. One of the main reasons why I've not been making videos since the Atelier Meru unboxing is because I had surgery about a couple of weeks ago. I had hernia surgery. I had a hernia, and I had to get a hernia repair done on myself, and so forth. And I've been doing a whole lot better. I just went to the doctor today to get checked up on, and he says that I'm good to go, that my incision is doing a whole lot better, and that I can actually start lifting things again, but just not to overdo things. And pretty much what caused the hernia, I guess I kind of overestimated my own strength, and it just somehow happened. I don't know how it happened, but it kind of just did. And probably when I was lifting something heavy or something, probably during work, or when I was kind of helping around the house or something. But that's something else in itself. But yeah, I am doing great. The doctor said I'm doing great, and I am so stoked about it. But anyway, another reason why I've also not been on YouTube lately is because, as you can see right here, and I'll go ahead and explain that. Luke Morse One, he's been making videos recently about him moving to a different apartment, and pretty much I've been doing some moving on my own as well, but not from apartment to apartment, but from room to room. I moved to a different room in the house, and pretty much this was the room that I mostly did some of my older videos in. As you can see, I've gotten most of my room set up, and I'll just go ahead and show everyone a little brief glimpse of what I've done. As you can see right there, there's my Kasumi wall scroll. Right over here's my manga. Some complete series, some not. Right here's my PC gear, my camera gear, and my copy of Sugary Perfect Edition, which I have yet to figure out how to get the controls and save system to work on that. I have to look into that later. Got a lamp right there. Got my collection of novels right there. There's my Fuka figurine. And I decided to keep her out and went ahead and ordered another one that was completely sealed in the box for a cheap amount of money. And, you know, basically that way I can have this one out on display and the other one like sealed in the box, and I can keep it in the Sky 4 Premium Edition box. Right here, I've got my anime right here. This is all of the anime that I've got right there. And yes, I do remember I'm going to be reviewing this real soon. And like I said, it's going to be one of my more negative reviews. But anyway, yeah, this is my desk right here. Got some space right there. Right over in here, as you can see, is some of the networking things. This is my router and my modem that I use for online. And over here, I've got my cable box, my alarm clock, my Sega Genesis, Atari 2600, and my Atari Jaguar with the CD attachment. I've got my consoles and handhelds, a whole bunch of them, like in the drawers there. There's my TV, Atari poster, several mini posters, Sweet Home poster. I got this old TV up here, which I'm not going to be using. I'm actually going to be moving it upstairs into the bedroom that I was in before I decided to move down here. And yeah, but I'm going to be taking that down soon. Right over here is my Saber wall scroll. Several more mini posters. And right over there is the nightstand with a mirror, my bed, the Yuffie Kisaragi wall scroll right there. Several more mini posters, and right there's some more game consoles, NES, Super NES, N64, Sega Master System, Virtual Boy, PS2, PS3. Right over here, this is the part that I've not really cleaned up yet. I have yet to get to it, but I've not been able to get to it because of my part-time job. This right here, it's kind of a little bit cluttered there. It's still a little bit of a disaster over there. It's a little small corridor which has two closets right there and the door that leads to the bathroom. Thankfully the bathroom is still accessible to via another door, but yeah, it's kind of a little bit cluttered right there. I need to get that stuff cleaned up and taken out of there. A couple of closets right there that in between I need to clean up. But other than that, I've pretty much got myself set up down here, and I'm actually glad about it. And but yeah, that's kind of like a little brief glimpse of my room. I'll probably do another room tour here soon, which will kind of be kind of a little bit of an update as opposed to, to the last room tour that I did when I was still staying like upstairs. One of the main reasons why I moved down here is because there's actually more space and so forth. And yeah, I can actually fit more things down here, like a little bit more anime, manga, video games, that sort of thing. But also, I've got a desk down here, and that can be useful for college and so forth, which I've decided to major in special education. And, you know, if I do go on to, you know, try to become an English teacher for one of the conversation schools over in Japan, that's great. If not, well, you know, that's still all right. I mean, I can still, you know, make it as a, you know, special ed teacher, an elementary education teacher around here and so forth. But yeah, that's what I'm going to be going into as far as college is concerned. Also, in more recent news, I have also turned 22 years old, and I turned 22 back on June the 29th. And what I got for my birthday is none other than a PlayStation Vita, or a PS Vita. This system is pretty cool. I actually enjoy it. The only thing bad I can really say about it is that there's no backwards compatibility for PSP games, and also Sony is killing off the PSP. I think a little rather too quick. I mean, there's still a couple of more games coming out on the PSP that, you know, unfortunately we may not get here in the States, and it's kind of sad because, you know, I think the PSP still has a little bit of life left to it. The thing is that Sony thinks, oh, the PSP was somewhat of a marketing failure, and they just want to go ahead and just kill it off. They think it was just a big mistake to begin with. And that's not the case. Really, the PSP was actually successful. It sold real well, and there was a lot of good games for it. But, you know, a good amount of the games, I guess, is it just, you know, it's, I guess it's, I guess it just, you know, aims towards those who have some sort of a niche taste for games. You know, one of those niche tastes for games, like role-playing games or strategy RPGs or, you know, something like that. But there are a lot of good games for the PSP, and, you know, that sort of thing. And it's going to be sad because we're not going to be able to possibly get any more games that are coming out for the PSP that have already been announced over in Japan, like Fate Extra Triple C, which I've heard is coming out this winter over in Japan. And while Axis Games has been teasing its fans that they're going to localize the game in North America, chances are we may not be able to get it because, well, Sony's killing off the PSP here in North America, I think, a little too soon. And it's going to be sad and so forth, and we may not be getting Fate Extra Triple C, which, for those of you who don't know what that game is, it's actually the spiritual. It's actually the. It's the successor. It's the sequel to. I was about ready to say spiritual successor, but no, it's the sequel to Fate Extra for the PSP that came out last year and has kind of garnered a cult following. You know, it's become some sort of a cult classic amongst RPG gamers and PSP gamers and so forth. And it's a really great game. If you haven't played it yet, I definitely recommend playing it. It's a little uncommon to find nowadays, but you can still download it off of PlayStation Network for about $25. But aside from that, another good game that we may not be getting is a spin-off to Corpse Party, which also came out last year for the PSP. And Corpse Party, for a survival horror game, I loved Corpse Party. Everything about it was just so descriptive, especially for something with 16-bit Super Nintendo-esque graphics. It was one of those games that, you know, you play, and if you know, you run into a dead end in the story, I mean, everything about it, like if a person gets killed or something like that, it's very gruesome, and it's just very, very descriptive in sort of a visual novel style. But at the same time, there are also there is some artwork in it that shows a lot of grisly deaths and blood everywhere and so forth. It's a gore fest of a game. And if you haven't checked it out already, it's a really good game. I do recommend it. It's like $20 on PlayStation Network. They never released a UMD copy of it, sadly enough, but there is a there is a version of it for on PlayStation Network that you can download onto your PSP for about $20. It's a really good game, and it's sad that we're not going to probably be getting the spin-off to it, which kind of stinks. And from what I understand, the spin-off to it is it's more comic relief than it is horror. So yeah, but anyway, back into the PS Vita. I want to go ahead and talk a little bit more about it. The PS Vita actually comes with these, and I actually kind of laughed about it when I first opened the box. Augmented reality cards. I kid you not. And it's like Sony is trying to go into the same marketing thing like Nintendo's doing, and of course, as such, it will not work out as well as what Nintendo does with their marketing strategy. I mean, but I will give Sony credit; they are going in a step in the right direction, especially after the infamous PSN attack that happened last year. I mean, seriously, these AR cards, as far as for the system is concerned, they're a joke. End of story. Anyway, in with the games here. The first one I've got here is BlazBlue Continuum Shift Extend, and you're probably already asking yourself, Knockaroo Fan 90, why in the world would you get BlazBlue Continuum Shift Extend for the PS Vita? Well, there's not really any other fighting games other than Marvel vs. Capcom 3 on the PlayStation Vita, but I do not really care much for Capcom anymore. They've pretty much killed off Mega Man. They've possibly killed off Ghosts and Goblins, Darkstalkers, Maximo, that sort of thing. And the only things that they've got really going for them is Street Fighter and Resident Evil. Now, while both those franchises are great, I'm still kind of disgusted with Capcom over what they've done with like having downloadable content on the disc. If you buy the disc at retail, the retail disc, you should be able to access all the content on the disc. But no, that's not how it works. You actually have to pay to access the other content that's already on the disc. Thank you, Capcom. Y'all can go stew in your own muck. And that's my brief rant about Capcom. Back into this. Aside from this being a port from the console version of BlazBlue Continuum Shift Extend, this game right here, it's a pretty good port for handheld version. It has all of the DLC that was on the console version, and it's actually really good for a handheld port. Let's just put it that way. It's pretty much the same thing as the console version, and you know, for a fighting game, being on a handheld console, this is definitely one to get. Just to show you all what the cards look like, and as you can see, there's no manual in this right here. And the reason why is the manual is already encoded on the game card here. And this is what the game cards look like. They're about the size, I would think, they're about the size of an SD card, or in general a postage stamp. I think they're a little bit more thinner than an SD card, but all in all, it's quite unique, and it definitely deviates from the from how Sony just went strictly on discs with the PS1, PS2, PS3, and the PSP. All of a sudden, they're now going into to game cards, and I think it does kind of blur the line when it comes to storage capacity on media. I mean, they fit Tales of the Abyss on a 3DS game card. And if you can do that, that's something. I mean, that's something that, you know, could only fit originally on a DVD, yet they can now fit it on a game card. It's like game cards are now kind of going far more leaps and bounds than what optical media has been. So, you know, it's like game cards and cartridges are kind of making a comeback. But anyway, on to the next game, and this is the first game that I got from my PS Vita. Knowing how much of a big Disgaea fan I am, I went ahead and got Disgaea 3 Absence of Detention. And yes, this was the first game that I ever got for my PS Vita. This game is awesome in comparison to its original PS3 iteration. They finally got it right with this iteration of Disgaea 3. There's two new characters, Stella and Rutil, and there's two extra boss characters in it, Fuka and Desko from Disgaea 4. And of course, those two characters, they're kind of like the poster children of Disgaea 4. They're that popular. But back into it. This is a really good game. They updated the graphics, the sound, everything. Everything looks great, and this definitely is probably the definitive version of Disgaea 3. It's a whole lot better than the PS3 version by far, and it's really fun. It's got touchscreen controls, rear touchpad controls, and it makes for a really unique gameplay experience. And they actually finally got it right with using a touchscreen for a Disgaea game. And if you haven't played this version of Disgaea 3 and you have a Vita, this is definitely a game to get. But aside from that, I think it uses somewhat of a modified Disgaea 4 engine, and modified as in they kind of downscaled it to where it's used for, you know, mainly Disgaea 3. But still, I think it runs on modified Disgaea 4 engine. I'm not sure. But aside from that, the last game I got is Gravity Rush, and I love this. This game is awesome. This game is so awesome. Oh my lord. The motion controls in this game, it's just really great. It uses motion controls, it uses the touchscreen, the rear touchpad, and this is definitely a great action adventure game to have on the PlayStation Vita. Definitely one of the first games that any gamer should get on the system. It's really great. It's really fun, and so forth. Now, not all the DLC's been released for it yet. I think the last DLC content comes out tomorrow, but I'm not entirely sure. But Gravity Rush is an awesome game, and it's one of my favorites on the system as of the moment. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the PlayStation Vita right there. I know I've been taking a long time here, and I've not really gotten to the main attraction of the video, which I'm going to get into right now. So let's get this on with, and I'll go ahead and talk about it. Okay, Visa Determined 2, a really good friend of mine, he made a comment on my room tour video back when I was making the Christmas video last year, and it was like a tour of my room and so forth. Yeah, he made a comment saying that he bought games for the Wii, but he didn't know what kind of good games to get outside of the common Wii games. And I want to talk about this for a bit, and this is an interesting subject, is about the Nintendo Wii. The Nintendo Wii, I think, as far as this console generation is concerned, it's become kind of like what the Sega Saturn did back during, I think it was the 5th generation of consoles, when it was competing up against the N64 and the Sony PlayStation. The Nintendo Wii became the other system as far as this generation is concerned. And the main reason for that is that it just uses a modified Nintendo GameCube architecture. And it's modified for motion controls. Now, the motion controls, I will say, when it was released with it, was kind of ahead of its time in a way. I mean, it was already done with the Dreamcast as far as motion controls were concerned, but Nintendo implemented it in a way that was far unique from any other consoles, and it was kind of a unique experience. However, what happened then is that Sony came out with, of course, the PlayStation Move, and then Microsoft came out with the Xbox 360 Connect, and all of a sudden the tides turned on the Nintendo Wii, and there's a whole lot of shovelware and a whole lot of bad games on the Nintendo Wii, and it's very hard to actually find good games for the system, as it's more marketed towards casual gamers as opposed to core gamers. Now, I will say this. I'm a little bit of a casual gamer, and at the same time, I'm a little bit of a core gamer. I like a little bit of everything. But aside from that, the Nintendo Wii, I mean, I do like the system, but at the same time, when you looked at it, it just uses outdated hardware, and, it's just become the other system of this generation. And I think in the long run, it probably hurt Nintendo a little bit. But nevertheless, there are some really good games for the Wii. They're just kind of hard to find out there, especially outside of the more common games. And that's what I'm here to talk about today, is what good games are there for the Wii? And that's the whole topic here for the first video for NF90 Talks It Out. So let's get started. The first game I want to talk about here is Castle of Shikigami 3. And I want to say this right now. This is like this is a really good game. It's the third iteration of Castle of Shikigami. It's a really fun bullet hex shooter, and it's really interesting and neat. It's kind of like Toho in a way. And for those of you who don't know what Toho is, it's an indie made bullet hex shooter, much like Suguri. But anyway, Castle of Shikigami 3 is it's an arcade bullet hex shooter. It's really fun, really interesting and exciting. And there's also one certain character in it. This character right here. That is Rika Kirishima from Time Gal. Now, Time Gal was an old arcade game that used FMV, and you had to press buttons like in the right direction at the right time, otherwise you were dead. Pretty much like with Dragon's Lair and Space Ace. But aside from that, Castle Shikigami 3, it's one of those bullet hex shooters that has a lot of unique, interesting things in it. There's a lot of enemies in it, a lot of characters to choose from in order to play as. There's a lot of interesting things in it. There's 55 different scenarios in the game, and there's a lot of replay value with it, and it's a really fun bullet hex shooter. I definitely recommend it. It's a little uncommon to find, but it's really good. Another cool thing about it is that it was actually developed by Arc System Works, same people that developed BlazBlue, Guilty Gear, and to a lesser extent the remix version of Hoshigami, and that's a horrible strategy RPG. But the other games are awesome. So yeah, but anyway, back into it. Next game that I've got. Castlevania Judgment. Now, this game, when I first played it, it reminded me of Dissidia Final Fantasy on the PSP. It's one of those games that's basically, it has crossovers of different characters from different games in the Castlevania series, and they're pretty much duking it out, kind of like in Smash Brothers. But, of course, it's free roam fighting, much like with Power Stone or something like that. And it's really unique. You have different abilities with each of the characters. And there's like 14 different characters, and it's a really unique game to have. There's a whole lot of game modes. It's also online. You can play up against a friend online. Not many people really cared much for this game, but it is a really good game. It's one of those games like if you liked the City of Final Fantasy on the PSP, you really can't go wrong with Castlevania Judgment on the Wii. It's one of those games that you either love it or you hate it because of the battle system in it. But for a fighting game, it's really really good, and I do recommend it. Okay, and aside from that, the next game that I'm going to show, and this one's a little bit more of a love-hate thing as well. Heavenly Guardian for the Nintendo Wii. Now, at first glance, you would think that this is a shovelware game. It's really not. As a matter of fact, this is actually a spiritual successor to the Pocky and Rocky series on the Super Nintendo. This game is quite unique. Instead of playing as Pocky and Rocky, you actually play as a snow goddess named Sayuki, who is trying to cure a boy that she loves of this horrible, devastating disease. And pretty much you have to go through and shoot at demons and that sort of thing. And it's quite unique. There's not much to the game. There are different power-ups, much like what you had in Pocky and Rocky. It's a nice little spiritual successor to the series. But the bad thing about it is that there's not much replay value, and and also you have to finish it in one sitting. There's no real save system on it. Now, once you do beat the game once, it does save like all of your progress and so forth, but it makes the game a little bit difficult and inaccessible. But if you do like a challenge, kind of like if you liked Maximo or something like that, a modern game but has a old school challenge to it, this is definitely a really good game to have. And I know that the way it was localized, it'd be kind of a turnoff, but the game in itself, when you first play it, expectations at first are not too high, but it does turn out to be a really good game. But at the same time, of course, it's not really for everyone. It's one of those games that, mainly appeals to probably core gamers than anything else. Anyway, back into it. Next game I got, Muramasa the Demon Blade. This game is pretty cool. It's done by VanillaWare, the same people that did Odin Sphere, one of my favorite games on the PS2, and Grim Grimoire, which is another one of my favorites. This game is really fun. It's a hack and slash, but it also has a really hardcore challenge for those old school gamers out there. It uses the motion controls for like the swords and everything like that, and it's really quite interesting, and it's nonetheless very fun. And of course it's done by VanillaWare, and VanillaWare is known for making some really good games. As a matter of fact, I think they're actually working on another game that Atlas is actually localizing here in the States, I think next year, and it's like for the PS3 and the PS Vita. I forgot what it was called, but I think it's like a spiritual successor to Princess Crown, a game that we never really saw release here in the States. But anyway, back into it, and y'all are probably going to be laughing at this next one. Oni Shanbara Bikini Zombie Slayers. This is the sequel to the Xbox 360 game Oni Shanbara Bikini Samurai Squad, and pretty much the earlier game, it was pretty bad as far as the controls and so forth. I heard that the game's really not responsive and it gets repetitive at times. But they actually got it right with the sequel here. And you don't really need to play the earlier one just to enjoy this one. This one, it's enjoyable just straight from the start. Expectations, again, at first, you may not, you know, you may not, care much for it at first. Your expectations may be low at first, but when you get into it, it kind of reminds me of Zombies Ate My Neighbors, but at the same time, it kind of mixes in all the guilty pleasure of having hot chicks, slashing at fleshing zombies and so forth. It's a really good game. Um, it's done by Tamsoft and published by D3 Publisher, and of course they're known for the Simple series of games, which is actually what Oni Shambara is a part of. Simple gameplay, yet it does have some of those plots in it, but it does have some complex plots in it at times. And overall, the game in itself it's pretty fun, but it's one of those games like it's repetitive, yet you can't stop playing it, kind of like God Hand on the PS2. But anyway, I digress a little bit more on that. But yeah, it's a really good game and so forth. Next game, and I'm sure everybody is familiar with this one, but I do want to talk about it because I think it was one of Ubisoft's greatest games on the system when it first came out on the Wii. Rayman Raving Rabbids. This is a really fun game. I'm a big fan of the Rayman series, and when I first played this game, I didn't expect much, but it's a really fun little compilation of mini games. It's got a storyline to it, but there's not much with the story that unfolds with it. The sequel didn't really have much of a story with it either, and I didn't care much for the sequel, but the original Raving Rabbids I really enjoyed. And there's different mini games you can have up to 4 people play, and have a good time and play a little offlandish take on up against Mario Party or something. It's kind of interesting that they tried to compete a little bit against Mario Party when it came to Rayman Raving Rabbids. But it's a really fun game, and it's a really funny game as well. It does have a little bit of toilet humor in it, though. But aside from that, next game I want to show is Shiren the Wanderer. Now, for anybody that's familiar with Izuna or Pokemon Mystery Dungeon or Mystery Dungeon Shiren the Wanderer for the DS, you'll feel right at home with this one. This is a really good game. It's a roguelike game, and of course the roguelike genre, it's a very niche genre. It's it's something that not many gamers will really enjoy, but it's a really fun roguelike game. It's quite epic in my opinion, but words can only be so few as to how to really describe this game. It's a roguelike game. It's really fun. You do have to strategize a little bit with it, but other than that, it's a great game in the story. But I really can't say much for it, but it's really fun, and that sort of thing. I just can't really describe how a roguelike game goes that well. I mean, it's a really niche genre, so you can take my word for it, or that sort of thing. You need to take my word for it, or just go your own route and not even try it. But it's a good game. Anyway, back into it, and I know this game right here is made by Nintendo, but yet it has to be mentioned because it is one of the more uncommon Nintendo games out there that came out a couple of years ago. It's really a fun game, and it is a it's pretty much of a successor to Sin and Punishment on the Nintendo 64. And this is Sin and Punishment Star Successor. This game is it's really awesome. It takes the same gameplay engine that was in Sin and Punishment, but it just makes it 10 times more better. And it's got Wi-Fi support for online play and so forth. It's has the same arcade shooter action you've come to know and love of Sin and Punishment, and it's just really a really fun game, and it's a really good game for a sequel. I enjoyed Sin and Punishment on the N64, and this game is just really awesome. But yeah, Sin and Punishment Star Successor is definitely a game that I think any gamer that has a Wii should try. But yeah. All right. Super Swing Golf. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with this one, this is actually part of the Panga series of golf games. There are 3 console releases of Panga games here in the States. You've got this, Super Swing Golf Season 2, and Panga Fantasy Golf, which the latter was released for the PSP. So, yeah. But this is a really fun golf game. You use the Wii Remote to swing at the ball and so forth. You have the same characters you've come to know and love about Panga. You have Scout. You have Hannah. You have Max. You have Koo and that sort of thing, and it's a really fun game. It has all the characters you come to know and love about the Panga series, and it's a really fun game. This is definitely what a golf game should be on the Wii. Is this? So, yeah. Anyway, next game, of course, Super Swing Golf Season 2, and this one actually has special costumes with it that you can dress up the characters in, and of course has all your favorite characters in it, you know, Scout, Cool, Lola, that sort of thing, and it's the same thing. It's of course it's got like a better gameplay engine with it, and also it's you know, it's got the costumes and so forth, but nothing more, nothing less to really say about the sequel, but it is very good. Next game, and I know I just did a brief rant about Capcom. Tatsunoko versus Capcom. This is a really fun game. Now, I'm not really familiar with much of the characters in the Tatsunoko universe, all but for Zillion. And that's a very old anime. That's like from like the late 80s, early 90s. But aside from that, it's a really fun game. You've got all your favorite characters from Street Fighter, Darkstalkers, Mega Man, going up against characters from the Tatsunoko universe like Yatterman and, you know, so forth. Gotcha Man and everything like that. So yeah, it's a really fun fighting game. It can be played with the Wii Remote, the Nunchuck, Classic Controller, and the GameCube controller. And if you're looking for a fighting game, also it has online support. If you're looking for a fighting game that you know, that you would love to play as far as Capcom Versus Series is concerned on the Wii, this is definitely a great game to have. And it's probably one of the last great games that Capcom came out with before they started doing all this DLC crap. Yeah! But anyway, I know this is a little bit random, but let's go ahead and get on with the next game. And this is another one of the launch games, much like with Rayman Raving Rabbids. One of the last great Tony Hawk games as well. Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam. This is completely different from the formula that you see in the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series. Instead of focusing doing on tricks and so forth, instead you're pretty much racing downhill, sometimes against the clock, sometimes against other opponents, and you're basically just trying to get to the finish as fast as possible. Very fun, fast paced. You can actually knock the other skaters off their skateboards and pretty much slow them down for a bit. A fun, fast paced skateboard and racing game. Definitely get this game if you have a Wii. It's really amazing. The only thing I have to criticize about, there's no online support for it. But even with that, I think Activision did a great job with this one. Hands down. And last but certainly not least, and this is something that I got exclusively from GameStop. Dun, 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 dun. Yes, I had to do the Space Odyssey theme. Yeah, just go ahead and laugh at me for trying to do a stupid interpretation of that. Anyway, yes, Xenoblade Chronicles, latest game in the Xeno series, and it was done by Monolith Soft, which just recently got acquired by Nintendo. What else is there to say about this RPG? It's awesome. It's awesome. I mean, this is definitely what the Wii needed, and this is also probably the best graphics and sound that in the game that the Wii is probably capable of. And when I'm saying that, I'm talking about late gen PS2-esque graphics. Yeah, that's about as good as what the Wii can do, and it's in this game. And this is an awesome game, awesome RPG, great battle system. You can use the Wii remote, the nunchuck, the classic controller on it. It's best to use the classic controller for a game like this, especially for those who are core gamers that love Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger and so forth. If you loved Xenosaga, if you loved Xenogears, Xenoblade is definitely a great game. They did an amazing job with it. I think it's probably one of the best RPGs I've ever played, aside from several others that I have played in the past, like Final Fantasy VI and so forth. But yeah, it's a great game, an amazing game. And speaking of RPGs, one game I am definitely looking forward to this fall is The Last Story. The Last Story, of course, being done by the creator of the Final Fantasy series. And from what I've looked at, the game looks pretty amazing, and I'm thinking about getting it once it does come out. So yeah. The Wii still has a little bit of a bright future ahead of itself when it comes to RPGs, but it's that's pretty much the only bang it's going to go out with. Everything else pretty much that went on with the Wii has been pretty terrible, to say the least, or not terrible, but disappointing. There was a lot of shovelware, and plus there was the whole fact with they didn't release that many virtual console games for the Nintendo Wii. I mean, we didn't even get Earthbound, mainly because of copyright issues, and they won't change the Skyrunner song on it. But aside from that, the Wii, it has its ups and downs, but it's still a good console to have, even though it's been considered the other system as far as the 7th generation of consoles is concerned. Am I going to get a Wii U? I'm not sure. It depends on how much the DRM is enforced on that system, number one. And number two, it depends on what kinds of games come out for it. And from what I've seen, it looks like rehatchings of games that have already been on PS3 and the 360. but it may lighten up soon, so you never know. But I'm not going to get a Wii U upon launch. Neither am I going to get a Nintendo 3DS XL, because I'm happy with the 3DS that I've got, and it's just pointless to get a 3DS if you're wanting bigger screens and so forth. And I didn't have any real complaints with the battery life. I mean, 6 hours of battery life is the most I usually get out of the 3DS's battery, and that's not terrible. That's pretty much the up to date standard for a rechargeable battery on a high tech handheld console. So yeah, but yeah, I'm not going to be getting a 3DS XL. There's no point, and it's pretty much looks like it's going to be marketed towards some of the older people out there, some of the elderly people out there who want a 3DS mainly for the casual games on there. And I just keep asking myself, who in the world who is elderly would want a system that displays 3D? I mean, I don't think really the elderly cares much about the whole 3D fad that's been going on. But that's another question for another time. But all in all, just plain and simple, I'm not getting a 3DS XL, nor am I going to be getting the Wii U once it comes out. I will definitely probably be getting Last Story, though, but I'm not sure. And I do hope and pray that, the two PSP games I mentioned do somehow get localized over here. If they at least localize Fate Extra Triple C, even if it's in downloadable format, I'll be stoked about it. But chances are we may not be seeing those over here in the States. That, or unless they did an upscaled port of those games for the Vita, who knows. But anyway, that's pretty much it. And to advise the Determined 2 out there, I hope you've been watching this video, and I hope you got a good idea as to what kinds of obscure games there are out there on the Wii that are pretty good. I hope that video helped you out, man. That's pretty much what this video was intended for. And also to a lot of my fans and friends, especially Luke More Swan and Elwing Princess, I'd like to hear from y'all. It's been a while, and I'd like to hear from y'all, and so forth. And as far as other videos are concerned, I've got a channel up already, and I'd like for y'all to check out the channel. It's called the Prinny Gamers, and I'm actually the co-leader of the Prinny Gamers. Halo 3 Amateur, who is a friend of mine and is also a college friend of mine, he's the leader of the Prinny Gamers, and two of our other friends, Donald V2 and DOS Ninja, are also members of the group, and it pretty much just consists of the four of us, and we're doing LPs and Let's Plays and so forth. I've already made a introductory and announcement video on that channel about what videos I have going on, especially some reviews and walkthroughs of a certain video game series that I'm going to be doing here really soon. But aside from that, I'm going to be posting links to two of my videos. I've already got an LP going, and it's going to be in 5 parts. The first part's already up, so be sure to check out those 2 links on the description box. I'll be sure to put them there. And other than that, that's pretty much all there is. That's all that wraps it up with. And I know this has been quite a lengthy video, and I hope and pray that y'all enjoyed it. But as for now, this is NF90. Sayonara. God bless. Happy video gaming, anime watching, and manga reading.